also does. Another thing also, I mentioned data protection earlier. User data is very sensitive, so they have to handle it with care. So the regulation also provides for that. So you don't want, even if you get access to my contact, you don't just call them and start harassing them. You don't just call them and start telling them, sending curses at them. And of course, I know the FCPC, they've worked with the Nigerian Data Protection Agency, the NDPA, to NDPC Commission, to
Nigeria Data Protection Commission.
Yes, to regulate the aspect of how users or consumers are harassed, especially in relation to frequent calls. Like you can get 50 calls in a day.
I think frequent call is still better. Some people will go as far as posting posters that this person is HIV, a criminal, has HIV, slept with dog. A whole lot of harassment going out right there.
Absolutely, and that's what it's regulating. Of course, they've taken steps before the regulations. They've taken steps in the past to enforce against these institutions. Several fines have been meted out after investigation to many of them. So, but they put out these regulations for digital lenders to understand that these are important. And also the issue of the issue of penalties. So the enforcement mechanism, it's also it's also stated there. What are these administrative penalties when you flout the regulations? So those are some of the key provisions in the.
And those insights are great, Barrister Emmanuel. Let's talk about the major challenges of digital lenders in perspective to those new regulations. What are the major challenges money lenders can face with these new regulations?
Well, no company operating in the because I would like to think of it's two-pronged.
Please bring it on.
So the challenges with regards to one, their business, and so how it's the impact on consumers or the users of the product. So from last year, when the regulation was first passed, there was a period that was given for all existing digital lenders to regularize their, register, and if they've not regularized it, they are basically delisted and barred from operation. And that ended early this year, on 5th of January. So the impact now is that, number one, it's very expensive, in quotes. And so, for instance, you get a money lending license and you're operating from Lagos. Maybe you don't really have that much money. And now you have to pay some millions and go through a whole process to register with the FCPC. Well, I think they made it also easy from experience. It's not that difficult, but then they find it that, okay, it's too much regulation, over-regulation, too many things to comply with. So that's one of the challenge they have. So they also have the issue of registration. They have the issue also of compliance, because it now becomes more difficult to keep up with compliance in the space. So you have to comply with requirements of the NDPC. You have to comply with requirements of the FCPC. You have to comply with the requirements of the CBN. You have to comply with the requirements of the NCC, because digital lending in this case also covers issues. Even telecom companies are also covered. For instance, when you borrow credit from them, it also covers those kind of people. Like when you borrow airtime, it also covers, because that's digital lending as well. It covers not just cash, but extends even to other forms of lending or barter practices. So that's another challenge, the issue of compliance. And another one is the issue of the fact that if they can't register, they have to stop business. So it means now they have to now start spending more money with regards to legal, and maybe trying to find investors who will bring in money, compliance with regards to, because it's not just about registration, it's an ongoing requirement. The regulation provides for a renewal after every 3 years, and there are fees that they have to keep paying after every 3 years. And the regulation provides an amount for renewal, but it's also still discretionary. So the FCPC can decide to increase the renewal fees, whenever they decide so. So it also makes it very unsure and unstable for business. Of course, it's a business, and these people also there has to be certainty with regards to how much are we paying for renewal, how much are we paying for compliance. So of course it takes up cost, but then I think it's an important regulation, and that's one of the challenge. And then the second challenge is when I mentioned with regards to consumers is that it now becomes very difficult to, let's say, because they have practice where, so what, how do we show that we have crossed the line? How do you, where have we crossed the line? So they start thinking, how do we get back our money? Especially when you know, maybe you are, for instance, Nigerians are very difficult people to, when you borrow their money, it's very difficult to get back on. So what is good business practice to get back our money from people who are unwilling to pay? You understand? So that's another issue, like for them dealing with consumers. So they have to be very careful. And consumers themselves can, let's say, once they run away with the money, how would they get back their money? So that's why a lot of them carry out this predatory practice, which is, of course, it is condemnable. But then we have to balance it out, make it less expensive to comply with the law, and also make it easier for them to be able to, let's say, report consumers as well who refuse to, let's say, pay back their loans. There was no provision in that regard. So those are some of the challenges.
Interesting. You making mention of crossing the line. I think that will lead us through to this aspect or angle right now. What specific actions constitute harassment under the new regulations, and how will the FCCPC determine if a lender has crossed the line?
Well, so as a lawyer, I'll think of, in determining what it means to, of course, that one, they look at the facts. So you don't just determine by reason of this is what the person said. You look at the facts, you look at the situation, you look at the circumstance. So what the FCCPC does as a regulator is that they investigate. They look at the practice. Is it that user data was breached? Or should I say the consumer data was breached? That's one. Did they send unsolicited messages to third parties? Were there frequent calls and threatening messages? So those are some of the things they look at when they look at the facts. So there's a redress mechanism, a complaint mechanism. So I feel what the FCP does is that they look at the facts because, and they look at both sides. So that's where they now determine that, okay, this is actually, and of course that also determines the severity of the penalty of the fine they met out to the erring party. So that's
all right, if you're just joining us now, this is Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV, where we inform consumers about their right, protection, and safety. And this morning on the program, we're having a detailed conversation about the FCCPC new regulations on money lenders. And with me in the studio, for more clarity, helping us dissect this pressing issue, we have Barrister Romano. Barrister Romano, let me have your standpoint on this issue. What are the necessary measures you think FCCPC has to take to protect consumers from predatory lending practice, and how effective are these measures?
The measures they have to take. Well, I think the most they can do is, the first thing they can do is basically, of course, regulation, which they are doing well in that regard. So, and we've had issues where they've had to take down apps from app stores, from several digital
So is it that the
platforms.
consumers that borrowed money before taking out the app are not going to pay the money? Or
Well, no, I'm saying they've enforced against erring lenders,
okay, all right.
where they've had to take down some of these apps. Then, am I answering the question correctly?
Yes, please go on.
Yes, they've also taken steps to impose fines ranging from 10 million to 20 million on erring lenders. That's another step they've taken. So aside from regulation, telling them this is how you play. Some of them, like I mentioned, some of them are not aware. It's just a practice. It's just a business practice which is unfair. And that's all they know. So now the FCC has, okay, they've come out and like, so look at this regulation. This is what you have to do to be compliant, from registration to how you go after erring lenders or delinquent debtors in that sense. And they've done that as well. And of course, also they've also created a redress mechanism. So I think what they need to do more now is in the area of consumer education.
Awareness
as well. So you have to not just consumer, but also everyone in every stakeholder, from the lending companies to the the borrowers as well, the general public. Let them know, this is what you have to do. This is the steps. These are the steps you can take. So it's not. It has to be balanced, but of course, it's still consumer protection as well. You have to also make sure that people are protected from unfair lending practices. So those are some of the steps they've taken, and I also think they also have to look at the regulation as well. They should look at the criticisms of stakeholders and update that regulation from time to time to accommodate present realities. So for instance, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like the requirement for registration is too hectic, and the period of renewal is too short. That's my own personal criticism of the law or of regulation in that sense. So they should look at these criticisms and, of course, take steps to regulate, or should I say update that law to make it easy. Because at the end of the day, we're looking at ease of doing business. So they should make it easy as well for money lenders. But so those are some of the things they can do. Not push people out of the market, because this regulation definitely will push a lot of people. Some people won't be able to operate anymore. That's what it does. And it will lead to some form of, it reduces access to credit as well. So when your normal challenger is no longer operating, even though they are trusted, because of they are unable to comply or they failed to comply with regulations as such, they won't be able to carry on business. So they should make it easier for people to be able to.
Let's review without critics right now, looking at the lending industry in abroad, the UK, the USA.
I can mention names?
Just make mention of one.
Yeah, okay. So for compliance into it. So from the moment when you are onboarding the user, they're already aware that, okay, these are the interest rates. While you are building, you're already taking steps to get these licenses. Even if you are collaborating with existing institutions, you're also making sure they are informing the regulator. So we are not just building in isolation. So I think in Nigeria, compared to other, we are getting it right. At least we are stepping up. We have one of the most advanced fintech ecosystem in the world. A lot of our transactions now in Nigeria are electronic.
English, now I go to marry am with pidgin, go make am spicy. So catch me every time on the show to enjoy more about trending AWUF packages. Peace.
Public service.